Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling a subject that's incredibly important but often goes unseen. We're going to talk about a curriculum, but not one you'll find in any syllabus.
Exactly. We're talking about the invisible curriculum, the one that every single child studies when they move homes, when they change cities, or, even cross borders.
And it's a curriculum that really centers on
Yeah.
what? Identity?
Identity, absolutely, but also loss and how they try to piece everything back together. So today, for this deep dive, we've pulled together a lot of findings on the psychological side of child migration.
Right, and we're going to look at it specifically through the lens of the major Indian school systems. We've got CBSE, the state boards, and IB.
And how each one sort of unintentionally shapes a child's emotional world when it's already in flux. It's a huge topic.
It is. So let's start with a reality check. I think this is so important, especially for any educators or aspiring mentors listening. When a family is getting ready to move, what are the adults talking about? Where is their focus?
Oh, it's all logistics. It is a relentless stream of practical concern.
Like which schools are the best?
Yeah.
How do the syllabi line up?
Exactly. Can we transfer credits? What's the fastest path to the big university entrance exams? It's all very tangible, very manageable, things you can control.
But then you shift to the child's perspective, and all of that it evaporates, doesn't it?
Completely. A child isn't thinking about university entrance exams. They're thinking about the friends they just had to say goodbye to, the ones who got their jokes.
The teacher who knew they struggled with math but were great at art.
Yes. Or even just the places, the corner shop, the park, that one tree they could see from their bedroom window, the whole architecture of their belonging. That's what they're preoccupied with.
Which brings us to a central truth that I think we often just ignore.
Yeah, we do. And it's this. Every single child who moves experiences grief. Every single one. It doesn't matter if the move is for a fantastic reason.
Even if it's this huge opportunity for the family.
Yes, that's the paradox. The parent's opportunity is almost always built on the child's loss. It's a trade-off. You're trading their stability for future progress, and we have to acknowledge that trade.
That's a huge reframing, because it changes the first question we should be asking. When a parent comes into a new school, they're anxious, and they ask one thing.
Will my child adjust?
Right. Will they be okay?
Yeah.
They want reassurance that the external stuff, the grades, making friends, behaving, that it will all just click into place.
And that's a fair question. It comes from a place of love. But as educators, as guides, our job is to help them ask a better one, a deeper one.
Which is?
Instead of asking, will they adjust, we need to be asking, what is my child losing? Quietly.
Losing quietly. I like that phrasing. Why the emphasis on quietly, though?
Because kids are so attuned to the emotional temperature of the family.
Yeah.
They know the parents are stressed or excited or that they've spent a lot of money on this move.
So they feel like they have to be a good soldier.
A very good soldier. So they don't complain loudly. They don't say, I'm heartbroken. They adapt silently. And that silence is where the danger lies.
Because in a busy classroom, a quiet kid is a good kid, right?
It's the most common mistake we make. We see a quiet, compliant child who's getting their work done, and we think, "Whew, okay, that was a smooth transition." We mistake silence for strength.
When it could actually be a retreat.
It's very often a retreat, a survival mechanism. And that's why we have to learn to look deeper, to understand that silence isn't always a sign of successful adjustment. Sometimes it's a cry for help.
Okay, that feels like the perfect entry point for our first section. Let's really get into migration as a psychological event, the inner world of this moving child.
Yes. And the first step is to frame it correctly. This isn't just a change of address. For a child, it's a major psychological event defined by what is lost right now, not by what they might gain in 5 years.
The future is abstract for them. The loss is very, very real.
It's immediate. So if you're an educator and you're looking at a new student in your class, what are the specific losses you should be looking for? It's more than just missing a friend.
Right.
We can break it down into 3 core losses. The first is simply the loss of familiarity.
What does that mean in practice?
It's knowing the small things, where the library is, the sound of the bell, the principal's tone of voice, the rhythm of the school day. When all of that is gone, every single moment of the day requires conscious effort. It's exhausting.
You're constantly on high alert. Okay, what's the second loss?
The loss of identity cues. This one is huge, especially for older kids.
Identity cues.
Yeah. In their old school, they were the funny one, or the soccer star, or the artist. They had a role, a reputation. In the new school, they're a blank slate.
They have to earn that identity all over again.
which is terrifying.
Yeah.
They're stripped of their social context, so they either perform a version of themselves they think will be accepted, or they just hide.
And the third loss.
The loss of social certainty. This is about the unwritten rules.
Ah, the playground politics.
Exactly. Who's in which group? How do
Yeah.
you ask to join a game? What jokes are okay? Who can you trust? Not knowing that social code creates this low-level, constant anxiety.
And this is where that disconnect we talked about really hits home. The adult is seeing opportunity, but the child is just,
Yeah.
they're drowning in disruption.
Profound, exhausting disruption. And because we don't see that, we get the timeline for adjustment all wrong. Kids go through phases, and we can't expect them to just stay in the happy initial one.
Let's walk through that cycle. The outline says it starts, maybe surprisingly, with excitement.
Yes, the honeymoon period. The new house is cool. Maybe the flight was fun. Unpacking boxes is a novelty. Adults see this and they breathe a sigh of relief. They think, oh, this is going to be easy.
But excitement is just a short-term response. It burns out.
It always burns out. And when it does, that's when the second phase hits. Disorientation.
And this is the phase where teachers really need to be paying attention.
This is the critical intervention point. Disorientation is just this deep confusion, and it's marked by constant comparison. My old school's library was bigger. My old teacher didn't give this much homework. People here talk funny.
They're trying to make sense of the new reality by measuring it against the old one.
Exactly. They're running a constant mental calculation of what they've lost. And on top of that, think about the cognitive load. If they're also switching languages or cultures, they're code switching all day long. It is incredibly draining.
I've never thought of it as a cognitive load issue. It's like their brain is constantly running background software, just trying to keep up.
It is. And if that phase doesn't get resolved with support, it pushes them into the final and often most lasting phase, withdrawal or reinvention.
Okay, what's the difference between those two in the classroom?
Withdrawal is what you'd expect. The child gets quiet, they stop making eye contact, they retreat into books or their own little world. It's a retreat to safety.
And reinvention.
Reinvention is over-adaptation. This is the child who tries too hard. They become a social chameleon, maybe adopting a new accent or new interests that aren't really theirs, all in a desperate bid to fit in and feel some control. They're essentially losing themselves to survive.
And the big risk here for parents and teachers is that we expect that initial excitement to just last forever.
We mistake that initial relief for a final resolution. And because kids pick up on our expectation for them to be happy, they don't use clear words to tell us they're struggling.
Right, they won't say, I feel a profound sense of dislocation.
Never. You'll hear, I'm fine, it's okay, or the classic teenager response that shuts down everything, I don't care.
So we have to learn to read the behavior, not the words, to look for these silent signals.
We have to become experts in reading the invisible curriculum. So there are 4 key behavioral changes to look for. The first one is pretty obvious. Withdraw.
The chatty kid who is now silent at the back of the room.
Exactly. The student who used to love debate now never raises their hand. They're conserving emotional energy because the world just feels too overwhelming.
Then you have the complete opposite, overcompliance.
The perfect student. They're never late, their work is flawless, they're excessively polite, they're trying to control their chaotic inner world by being perfect in their external one. It's a desperate search for safety through conformity.
And then the more disruptive signs.
Yeah.
Sudden aggression is one.
Yes, that's often just a final explosive release of all that pent-up frustration and confusion. It's when the cognitive and emotional load just becomes too much to bear.
And the last one is interesting, perfectionism.
It's a huge signal. A child who suddenly becomes obsessed with getting 100% on every test or with having impossibly neat handwriting. It's not about the academics, it's about finding one small, measurable part of their world that they can conquer and control when everything else feels out of control.
This is such a critical reframing. For every educator listening, these behaviors, withdrawal, aggression, perfectionism, they're not discipline issues.
They are not misbehavior. This is the single most important takeaway. They are symptoms of identity recalibration.
Identity recalibration.
The child is working on a massive internal project asking, who am I here? How do I belong? And when you see that aggression as disorientation or that perfectionism as a search for safety, your whole response changes. You move from discipline to empathy, from punishment to support.
That's a perfect transition. Let's talk about the systems themselves and how they either help or hinder that process. Let's start with part 2, CBSE, the big one, The anchor for millions of kids, especially those moving between states or even countries in the diaspora.
Right. And the power of CBSE psychologically is that it's the ultimate known quantity.
It provides stability in the chaos.
Immense stability. A child can leave a CBSE school in Dubai and walk into one in Delhi, and it feels familiar. That familiarity provides instant psychological relief. It offers 4 key
I'll
benefits.
lay them out.
First, you have familiar structure. The timetable, the exams, the grading, it's all the same. Second, predictable routines. The morning assembly, the way teachers interact, it's a recognizable pattern.
So less cognitive load trying to figure out the rules.
Exactly. Third is cultural continuity. The curriculum is national. The stories, the history, it's a shared context. And finally, you have these consistent value-based narratives in subjects like civics or moral science.
So the big feeling for the child is, okay, at least something stayed the same.
That is a profound comfort. It's a mental safety net. They aren't wasting precious emotional energy trying to decode a whole new system of education.
The sources talk about these as familiar identity anchors. What does that look like in a classroom? What can a teacher consciously use?
It's the shared cultural shorthand. A teacher referencing a national hero or a festival or even just the specific format of an exam that every kid in that room, no matter where they're from in India, understands instantly.
It reaffirms their Indianness in a new place.
It tells them, you still belong to this larger group. You know the rules here. It's incredibly powerful for rebuilding confidence. For a migrating child, stability is not boring. It is profoundly healing. It frees up the mental bandwidth they need for the much harder work of emotional recovery.
But there's always a but. This focus on structure and stability, it comes with a trade-off, a hidden risk.
The risk comes directly from its greatest strength. The system is built on structure, compliance, and academic results. And because of that, it can systemically, even if unintentionally, under-address emotional loss.
It prioritizes the measurable over the emotional.
Completely. The assumption is if the child is quiet, getting good grades, and fitting in, then they are resilient. They have settled.
So the system actually rewards the very behaviors we just identified as potential signs of distress.
Yeah.
The silence, the overcompliance.
Precisely. There's a cultural emphasis on discipline over dialogue about messy feelings like sadness or grief. And the consequence is that a child can look perfectly settled on the outside top of their class, never in trouble, but be completely unprocessed emotionally on the inside.
Their grief just gets packed away.
Put on a shelf,
Yeah.
and it will come out later, often in much less healthy ways. So these kids, they become masters of suppression. They hide their regional accent. They stop talking about their old friends. They just conform as quickly and perfectly as possible. They learn the lesson that their feelings are a distraction from the main goal, which is success.
So for a mentor, for a teacher in that system, what is the actionable advice? How do you counteract that?
You have to intentionally create structures for emotional processing, both at home and in the classroom. 4 key things. First, actively invite storytelling about the past.
Don't wait for them to bring it up.
Never. Make it an assignment. Write about your favorite memory of your old school. Tell us one funny thing your old teacher used to say. You have to make the past an acceptable part of the present.
Okay, second,
Normalize missing people and places. Use the words. It's totally normal to be angry that you had to leave your best friend. You know, I miss my old neighborhood too sometimes. You give them permission to feel it.
the third one feels like the hardest one for parents. Avoid the be grateful narrative.
It's an emotional shutdown. When a parent says, you should be grateful for this opportunity, they are, in that moment, invalidating their child's pain. You have to teach them that gratitude for the new and grief for the old can exist at the same time. They are not mutually exclusive.
And the last point is about creating continuity at home.
Yes. Maintain family rituals, keep up with old friends online. The big takeaway for CBSE is that its values and structure are powerful, but they are not enough. They have to be paired with explicit emotional permission.
Discipline without dialogue is not true support.
It's just control.
Okay, that is a powerful frame.
Yeah.
Let's shift now to the state boards. These systems are usually for moves within a region, within the same state. If CBSE offers a national uniform anchor, what do state boards offer?
State boards offer something else, something deeper in a way. They offer emotional safety through maximum familiarity. They reduce the shock of the move dramatically.
How so?
3 ways. First, language familiarity. The medium of instruction is often their mother tongue. They can express themselves perfectly from day one. Second, cultural sameness. The festivals, the food, the social norms are all intact. And third, neighborhood continuity. They're often still close to extended family, to their grandparents, their cousins.
So their core identity cues aren't really challenged. The building is new, but the world feels the same.
Exactly. And this leads to the great strength of the state board system. It fosters incredibly deep roots, and those deep roots give a child a very, very strong sense of identity security.
What are the benefits of that?
They maintain those extended family bonds, which are a massive safety net. Their local identity, their accent, their dialect is a source of pride, not something to be hidden. They feel socially recognized from day one, they know who they are, and everyone around them confirms it.
It's an antidote to that identity confusion we talked about earlier.
A powerful one. But again, there's a trade-off. We have to talk about the potential social skills gap.
What happens when this child, with these deep, secure local roots, later has to move into a more global or diverse environment for university or work?
That's where they can struggle. Because their environment was so homogenous, they may not have had practice in a few key areas. Things like self-expression in unfamiliar groups, or robust intercultural communication, how to debate or disagree with someone whose entire worldview is different from yours.
They know the local rules inside and out, but they might lack the confidence to walk into a room of strangers and start a conversation.
That's it perfectly. Their security is tied to their familiar context. I love the analogy from the source material here.
The roots are strong, but the wings need practice.
Exactly that. So our job as educators in the system is to help them build those wings without cutting the roots.
How do you do that?
You have to consciously supplement their experience. You create structured opportunities for controlled exposure. For example, you encourage mixed social groups. You make projects that force kids from different backgrounds to work together.
You introduce new things gradually.
Gently, yes. And you have to actively promote different kinds of verbal expression. Get them debating, presenting, articulating complex ideas, maybe in a second language like English, so they practice communicating outside their comfort zone.
And what about fostering independence?
Crucial. You give them safe opportunities to solve problems on their own without the family or teacher immediately stepping in. It builds their confidence that they can handle novelty. The big insight here is that belonging is essential, but it should never become a cage. That deep-rooted identity should be a launch pad, not an anchor holding them back.
From a secure base to confident exploration. That makes perfect sense. And it sets up our final system perfectly, the IB, the International Baccalaureate. This is the world of the globally mobile kid, the third culture kid.
The ones who might move every 2 years. And the IB philosophy is, in a way, the polar opposite of the other two systems. It is explicitly built to celebrate global citizenship, diversity, and fluidity.
So for a kid who's always on the move, the core message they get is,
It's okay that you're from everywhere. In fact, it's great.
that must be an incredible relief after a lifetime of feeling like the odd one out.
It's a huge belonging advantage. In an IB classroom, moving isn't strange, it's the norm. Difference is welcomed. The system actively encourages them to build these flexible, multiple identities so they feel less lonely, more understood.
And they become very socially skilled.
Amazingly so. They are masters of transition. They can read a room, make new friends in a week, say goodbye without a fuss, and navigate a dozen different cultures before lunch. But
Here comes the hidden risk.
here is the most subtle and perhaps most dangerous risk of all. The system, by celebrating constant change, can unintentionally teach surface adaptability.
Service adaptability. What do you mean?
Because transitions are so normal and so frequent, the system can accidentally downplay the need to grieve. The implicit lesson is move on quickly.
And all that unprocessed loss, it has to go somewhere.
It just accumulates. Psychologists call it cumulative grief. It's a backlog of goodbyes. The child looks fine on the outside, they're functioning perfectly, but inside they're carrying this incredibly heavy emotional suitcase.
So this is where that international mindedness can become a kind of emotional fragility.
Yes. If the state board kid has strong roots but weak wings, the IB kid has strong wings but very shallow, fragile roots. They can develop a real rootlessness. And because they know the next move is always coming, they might actively avoid deep emotional attachment.
Because getting too close just means the next goodbye will hurt more.
It's a defense mechanism. They can even develop a fear of permanence. They are brilliant at the hello and the goodbye, but they struggle with the idea of a forever friend or a place they truly call home for the long term.
So for an educator in an IB school, what's the solution? How do you get the benefit of the global mindset without creating that fragility?
You have to be incredibly intentional about managing the emotional landscape. It's not enough to just celebrate diversity. You need to create structures for deep reflection. Success in the IB system depends on 4 conditions.
Okay.
First, emotional reflection has to be guided and mandatory, not optional. Use things like the CIS program or theory of knowledge to explicitly talk about loss, transition, and grief. Make it part of the curriculum.
And to go deeper on identity, not just where are you from, but what does it mean to be from everywhere?
Yes, exactly. Second, the curriculum has to explicitly value stability alongside flexibility. Teach them that staying put, committing to a community, is also a valuable skill, not a failure to be mobile. It's about integrating the past, not just moving on from it.
And the fourth condition.
The school has to actively support home anchors. Encourage mother tongue classes, family history projects, anything that keeps their connection to their culture of origin strong and stable. The big takeaway is that a global identity is only sustainable if it's built on a foundation of secure emotional grounding. You have to honor the pain of the journey, not just celebrate the destination.
This brings us right to our closing thoughts. We need to reframe this entire conversation away from coping and adjustment and back to grief, back to that core counseling question.
Right. Before any of us ask, is my child coping? We have to ask ourselves 3 other questions first. The first one is, have we given them the time and space to actually grieve?
Not just permission, but actual structured time.
Yes. Second, have we honored what they left behind? Have we made their past a proud part of their present story, or have we treated it like a chapter to be forgotten?
And the third, which feels so important for all these kids,
Have we helped them tell their story? Because the act of telling the story, the sadness, the confusion, the small victories, that is the work of integration. That is how they build a cohesive self.
there's such a powerful insight here. The act of migration itself doesn't actually weaken children.
No. In fact, the challenge of adapting builds incredible resilience and empathy. It's the unacknowledged loss, the pressure to be quiet, to move on, to pretend you're fine. That's what fractures their resilience.
For everyone listening, the teachers, the parents, the mentors, we have to stop seeing a migrant child as confused or broken.
They are not broken. They are carrying multiple worlds inside of them, multiple languages, multiple histories, and the adult in the room has a choice.
A critical choice.
If you listen patiently, if you create that space for their story, that burden of carrying multiple worlds transforms into a profound strength, a unique, complex, beautiful perspective.
But if you rush them, if you prioritize your own need for them to be fine, that strength fractures quietly. And you get a child who looks successful on the outside, but is in chaos on the inside.
Identity is the longest and most important curriculum your child will ever study. And it's not taught in a textbook. It's taught by the emotional permission you give them in their moments of greatest instability. So, counsel wisely. Parent gently. Teach consciously.
That's the mandate. So, to recap our key takeaways from this deep dive, first, always remember that disconnect between the adult focus on opportunity and the child's experience of disruption.
And second, train yourself to read the silent signals. See withdrawal, perfectionism, and overcompliance not as misbehavior, but as what they are. Identity recalibration.
And finally, that delicate balancing act. In CBSE and state boards, you have to create space for emotion within the structure. In the IB system, you have to create grounding and stability within the flexibility.
That system-specific conscious intervention, that's the art of great teaching.
As we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought to reflect on. Think about your own life, your own professional environment. When there's a big change, a project ends, you change jobs. How does your environment allow for grief or transition? If we as adults need time to process a change we chose, what foundational lesson are we teaching our children about their own pain when we demand that they just move on quickly from losing everything they've ever known?
The lesson you teach them about their own grief will shape their emotional health for the rest of their lives. Think about that and carry that consciousness with you.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the invisible curriculum. We look forward to exploring the next critical topic with you.